So the Ohio State Buckeyes just finished up their spring game, and there was a lot that we uncovered. There was a lot of questions answered. There was a lot of questions left unanswered. But at the end of the day, the question that we're all asking is, what did we learn from Ohio State's spring game? So let's get to breaking down. So first and foremost, the thing that I believe everybody can say, whether you're an Ohio State fan or not, the number one question coming into spring was who is going to be the quarterback. So the fact that we weren't able to see both Devin Brown and Kyle McCord sharing the field so we can see what they both look like, I think that was just a robbery for all college football fans. So I just had to get that out there because I was really looking forward to seeing what both of them would look like on the field at the same exact time. So all my Buckeye fans, let's just cut to the chase. Do you guys want to hear the good or the bad? Well, we already know what we're here for. Let's start off with the bad. Kyle McCord is not gonna cut it. I know that the quarterback competition is still open, but to me, after seeing what Kyle McCord did on the field in that spring game, there was absolutely nothing that he showed that really impressed me, let me know that, he was looking to lead that Ohio State team. At this point, I would put Devin Brown out there just because he's the younger prospect, just to see what he can do. There was just simply too many mistakes on Kyle McCord's part. In all honesty, I thought that third string quarterback Tristan Gibbia had a better spring game than Kyle McCord did. Kyle McCord finished off his day 18 for 34, throwing for 184 yards and a touchdown. And Tristan Gibbia was 14 of 24 for 127 yards and a touchdown. Tristan almost had the same amount of completions on 10 fewer throws. Overall, I know that there are huge shoes to fill in CJ Stroud's wake, but I don't think that Kyle McCord's the guy. Now, I haven't been able to see what Ohio State's practices have been looking like consistently. Also, this is spring ball, so we have plenty of time to, iron out a couple of things and, really continue to develop that offense. At this point, I really just need to see what Devin Brown's going to look like. The reason why he didn't play is because he had a procedure done on his finger, on his throwing hand, so he wasn't going to be able to play, but he will be back during the offseason. It's not like he's going to be coming back earlier on in the season. So he will be there with enough time to really solidify himself and try and win that starting job. I personally just didn't I thought that Kyle McCord was kind of slow with his throwing motion. I feel like there were just a lot of throws that, he has it's like a two-part throwing motion where he comes back and then he javelin pushes the ball forward. And I think not having that smooth just throwing motion, just getting it out, I feel like that slows up his throwing motion. There was a lot of plays that really could have gotten picked. CJ Hicks, who we will get to him a little bit later, that's one of the good things. CJ Hicks was all over the place. He almost got 2 picks on Kyle McCord alone. There was too many times where Kyle McCord was throwing it into traffic. He wasn't giving his receivers really a chance. And on the passes that he did complete, they were normally just check down passes to the running back. There wasn't a whole lot of, he was staring down his number one receiver. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't like he played absolutely terribly. There was some good throws. I mean, the throw that he had to Carnell Tate, his touchdown throw, that was a great throw. Again, it's a little bit too stagey where he's really pushing the ball downfield rather than just flicking the wrist and letting it fly. But it was a very nice throw. He hit Tate in stride. Overall, I just thought that a little bit of rust, he overthrew some guys. There was a touchdown that he had earlier on I want to say it was the second or third quarter, that he simply just underthrew. That was a walk-in, maybe not a walk-in touchdown, but if he just leads his receiver, that's a touchdown, or at least that's a big play. But he underthrew his receiver. His receiver had to come back to it. The corner was allowed to be able to make a play. Now, let me kind of just backpedal, not a whole lot, but just a little bit. Obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr. only played, I want to say, 2 series. You didn't have Emeka Egbuka or Julian Fleming out there. You had a lot of young guys. You had a lot of guys who were trying to prove themselves. So Kyle McCord did not have the full talent that he would have. Again, this is assuming that he will be the starter. He didn't have his full arsenal of playmakers. On top of that, he also did not have Travion Henderson or Evan Pryor in the backfield. So again, he was missing a lot of his weapons, and they also are trying to really put together that offensive line. I mean, they're trying to replace Paris Johnson and they need to find a new center. So overall, that was just my biggest takeaway on the negative side for Ohio State. Is the biggest question mark coming into this game was who's going to be quarterback and what's that quarterback play going to look like. Again, I know that once you get all the pieces in there, it's going to help him out a lot. I personally just did not see what I was expecting to see from Kyle McCord. I mean, I covered him back in high school and I loved his game in high school. He was a very efficient passer, just dicing up the field. Sometimes it feels like the game's happening a little bit too fast for him. That could just be my perception of things. There was a couple of bad throws. Like, overall, I just wanted to see a little bit tighter of a game. Again, I know that we're very early on in the whole football process. I just wanted to see a little bit more from Kyle McCord, especially if he is going to be the starter for Ohio State. And it just makes me that much more upset that we were not able to see Devin Brown and what he can do. And in all honesty, after that was pretty much the extent of my negativities. Well, I might touch on a few here and there, but overall, I think that Ohio State is in a great position to dominate next year. First and foremost, I think that we all can say Ohio State is going to have the deepest by far offense in the entire country. I mean, just listen to these offensive skill positions that Ohio State is going to have next year. First and foremost, you have the guy in Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Egbuka, Julian Fleming, Noah Rogers and Carnell Tate coming out and absolutely shining as true freshmen in that game, on top of also having a lot of other pieces in that wide receiver room. You just have a lot of young guys that are still trying to develop. You still have Jalen Ballard there, who had one of the better plays of the game with that one-handed catch. Overall, incredibly stacked wide receiver room. But then, okay, so you're like, what, 7 deep at wide receiver? But then let's go back into the RB room. You got Mayan Williams, Travion Henderson. My guy Chip Trainum went out there and was running like a train through Ohio State's defense. Absolutely phenomenal. And then you got Evan Pryor there too. That's 4 deep at RB and like 6 or 7 deep at wide receiver. And then you got Jelani Thurman and Cade Stover at tight end. That is why, as much like, okay, I didn't really see a whole lot from Kyle McCord. Literally, he does not need to be much. Get the ball into your playmakers' hands and everything will be just fine. Ohio State is spoiled for riches on the offensive side of the ball. I feel like overall, for it being very early on in the season, normally the offense is gonna lag behind just a little bit, because offense, especially at this high of a level, is more timing based, rhythm based. You know, you're just trying to find that flow of play calling. There's just a lot that you're trying to do. Whereas defense, you know, you can kind of just fly around and hit people. So I did love seeing that, even though the Ohio State defense did win, which Ohio State's defense is ridiculous. I did like the fact that overall, Ohio State, while they did have a lot of 3 and outs, I felt like that was more based off of Kyle McCord's play. I mean, when Tristan Gibbia was out there, they were moving the ball a little bit more effectively. Again, they also didn't have all of their playmakers, so I think having those receivers that can create that consistent separation is going to help. I love seeing Ohio State. They were moving the ball well. They were running the ball extremely well. Again, if you do run into problems with your quarterback play this season, you have the deepest backfield that I almost have ever had at Ohio State, which is going to take so much pressure off that quarterback play. When you know that at bare minimum, you are 3 deep with Travion Henderson, Mayan Williams, and Chip Trainum, those 3 guys alone are going to all be over 500-yard rushers on the season very easily. And then you got Evan Pryor in there, who's going to get you another some solid reps if for some reason all those guys get tired. I love the fact that in the year that Ohio State is going to have some quarterback questions, you have the most ridiculous supporting cast around him. Again, I personally want to see what Devin Brown looks like. I like Devin Brown's game coming out of high school. I personally like Kyle McCord's game better coming out of high school, but Devin Brown to me has the much stronger arm. And if he's able to just play at the speed that I know that he can and is a little bit safer with that ball, don't be surprised when Devin Brown is starting week 1. Like, I'm just saying that I personally think that from what we saw from Kyle McCord, he's on the back foot, even with Devin Brown missing the spring game. So overall, I don't want to keep on harping on Kyle McCord, but overall, Ohio State's offense looked phenomenal. They do have a couple of questions at an offensive line. I do think that there was some inconsistencies. I do feel like the Ohio State defense, which again, it's Ohio State's defense. We'll touch on them literally in like 4 seconds. Ohio State's defense was just penetrating a little bit too much. The quarterbacks were having to roll around and move around too much in the pocket to where like they weren't able to get in that rhythm. So I do think that the Ohio State offensive line needs to be a little bit more consistent. Overall, I think that Ohio State's offense is in great hands. I think once the quarterback situation's a little bit more smoothed out, once there's a little bit more consistency, there's a guy that's picked and he's able to really just take that deep breath, know that he won the job, and then go out there and play his ball. I think that's where you're going to see Ohio State's defense or offense really shine. I'm not going to come over here and say that they're going to be better than last year, because I do not think that they will be better than last year on offense, simply because you just don't have that conductor like a CJ Stroud. However, don't be surprised if it's comparable, because the amount of talent that they had, don't get me wrong, they had a lot of talent, but they were missing Trevion Henderson for most of the season. Maya Williams was a great star that really helped kind of elevate that team a little bit. I feel like Julian Fleming wasn't fully developed. Emeka Egbuka came out and he shined, but obviously you had Jackson Smith and Jigba there, so like he didn't necessarily have to be in that role. I think that all of the younger pieces really shone, and it was an overall great showing for that offense. So it could be comparable. It can very, very much be comparable. Now going over to the defense, I think that the player that everybody was watching had to be CJ Hicks. 5-star linebacker coming out of high school, and it showed in abundance today. He was out there just everywhere. He was just everywhere. He was giving Kyle McCord fits all game. I believe it was in Kyle McCord's first drive. He almost one-handed picked him. Over there, he was jumping underneath routes. He was just flying around, being a nuisance, making great tackles. I believe he got himself a sack as well. Overall, CJ Hicks was a phenomenal disruptor on that defensive side of the ball, as well as Kenyatta Jackson. The fact that JT Tuimoloau did not even play in this game, again, it's the fact that Ohio State has all of these like first round talent guys that didn't really play a whole lot or at all in this game, and they're going to add that on top of what we just saw. Ohio State, again, they have this massive question mark looming over their heads with the quarterback play. The Ohio State season is going to live and die on the quarterback shoulders. It could be phenomenal if, you know, they get like a Stetson Bennett type of guy, not Stetson Bennett this year, more like Stetson Bennett last year, where, you know, hey, we just need a guy to not turn the ball over. We need you to get the ball in our playmakers' hands, make the efficient throw. We don't need you trying to hit that 75-yard bomb downfield that has a 2% chance of completion because you don't have that 2% arm. We just need you to make the plays and let the team that surrounds you win these games. I feel like if they find that quarterback, Ohio State will very easily get back into the college football playoffs, and they could make another run at a national championship this year. Overall, their defense was flying around a lot of this, especially in the secondary. I was really impressed with just how well they were covering the receivers. It felt like no receiver was really able to create a lot of separation. I guess that's what happens when every single day you're going up against Marvin Harrison Jr., Julian Fleming, Emeka Egbuka. Like, you're literally, that Ohio State secondary has just been watching first round wide receivers just come in and out of that building. So they're kind of used to having to guard the best of the best. So overall, their secondary impressed. CJ Hicks was out there flying around. Kenyatta Jackson is going to be a star, and especially when you pair him up with JT Tuimoloau. Quarterbacks, be aware. Overall, I loved what I saw from Ohio State's spring game. I thought that they were playing at a good speed. I did think, you know, like most games, you know, start off a little bit slow, you know, get a little bit of feel for each other. Like, all right, we're not trying to kill each other, but we're also, you know, we're trying to get some quality reps in. I think that overall, I loved what I saw. I thought that the game speed was good. I thought that the young guys, especially the young freshmen, I mean, let's just tip our hats off. Noah Rogers, Carnell Tate, and Jelani Thurman on the offensive side of the ball all had a very productive days. I mean, my guy Noah Rogers had the play of the game. He was just breaking tackles. Now, do I think that he will make that same play in a real game? No, I thought that the secondary took it a little bit light on some of those tackle attempts. But overall, you just love to see that he can make those plays. Overall, I loved what I saw from the young freshmen. I thought that they all were out there playing at a good speed. They didn't really look lost. Jelani Thurman, I believe he could be a really great safety valve for. I don't think he'll be playing a whole lot this year because they still do have Cade Stover. Cade Stover and Jelani Thurman are not the same tight end. Jelani is much more of a receiving tight end, whereas Cade Stover is more of an extension of your offensive line. But overall, I thought that the young guys were playing great. I feel like especially a lot of the second-year guys, a lot of the sophomores, really were playing very well. I mean, Jermaine Matthews at corner was playing phenomenally. You had just a lot. CJ Hicks is a second-year guy. You just had a lot of the younger guys that, you know, you brought in the class of 2022. You're seeing if they could develop. You're seeing what type of recruits that they can turn into. They all really shown that, hey, we weren't just these star high school players. They really have developed very well at Ohio State. So, to me, Ohio State's in great hands. You got to figure out the quarterback situation because it's not going to get easier. I mean, you guys lost Dylan Raiola already in this year's class, so you're bringing in Aaron Nolan, so he could spice things up for y'all, but until he gets there, and he's gonna need some time to develop even when he does get there, Ohio State has some questions to answer at the quarterback position, but I think that the supporting cast around them is going to make their job extremely easy. I love the speed that I was seeing from both sides of the ball. I think Ohio State's defense is going to be slightly better than their offense this year, which is good. I think that Ohio State's going to need to rely a little bit more on the running game this year. I think you might see slightly less production from the wide receiver core. I think that there will still be production. I just think it's going to be much better to rely on that running game and let Ohio State, start games off just really pounding the defense, just going out there and just like, all right, we have 25 run plays, 30 run plays lined up in the first 3 quarters, and then we'll kind of open it up second half on. I think that will be a much better game plan for Ohio State's offense going into this season. But overall, I thought that Ohio State's in a prime position to absolutely dominate again this year in college football. But all of my Ohio State fans, I need to hear from y'all. What were y'all thoughts from the spring game? It's fresh in everybody's mind, so I need to hear those hot takes. Were you guys impressed with what Kyle McCord was doing out there, or were you like me and have some questions? Do you want to see what Devin Brown is looking like? Who do you guys think is going to win that quarterback battle? Who is your guy? Who is the standout player for y'all in this spring game? Who do you guys thought, they just shown a little bit better than everybody else did? And what are your guys' expectations of Ohio State football heading into next season? I'm really excited to hear all of your guys' thoughts and opinions in the comment section. Guys, we've been covering Ohio State pretty much on a daily basis over here. So guys, turn this into an Ohio State hub. Go into the comment section and show a bunch of love to all your Ohio State fans, and just kind of have a little chat as to see what the future of Buckeye football is going to be looking like this upcoming season. I'm excited to see the comments. I love and appreciate all y'all, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Ciao.